Well, hi, Mark. I just woke up less than an hour ago, so that's fun. Anywho, we are on the next shelf of the Shelf by Shelf. Been trying to do one of these every day. Now, watch that I've said that. I'm gonna, stop doing them every day. Because I suck like that. Anywho, we're just gonna get right into the Shelf by Shelf today. Slither. This is a pretty fun movie. It has what's his face in it? Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy. Michael Rooker. There we go. Well, and Henry from Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, but I've never seen that movie, so I know him as Yondu. But yeah, this is a pretty fun movie. It's got some really nasty effects. And it has a really similar premise to a couple of other movies that maybe it was paying homage to, because the premise is very similar to those other movies. The premise of Shivers is pretty similar to that. And then there was one that came out in the 80s that made people like alien zombies with slugs. I forgot what that movie's called, though. Was it Night of the Creeps? I haven't seen that one. I think it had Tom Atkins in it, though. I have to watch that movie, though, because it looks good. Sounds good. The Snarling. This is another Wild Eye film. Of course, I got it at the Dollar Tree. I wouldn't pay any real money for Wild Eye films, honestly. Wild Eye films are trash. And this movie's pretty much no different. This is probably the best Wild Eye movie that I've seen, because it actually does have a sense of humor. But that's about all it has going for it. It does have a pretty solid sense of humor, though. I'm just kind of tossing them down there. I just hope that stacks don't topple over. Split. Yes, this is in the horror section. I do consider this a horror movie. I like this movie quite a bit, and I like even more that I found this movie at a thrift store for $2. Near when it was brand new, too. Sorry, guys, I keep yawning. Like I said, I just woke up. I'm not used to, being awake, I guess. Not this morning, I'm not. But anyway, yeah, Split was a pretty good movie. That being said, I haven't watched it since I originally rented it. So, I guess, it's just not very rewatchable. Well, look at that, another Wild Eye movie. This one is from the Raw and Extreme line. This is a pretty trash movie. This one, unfortunately, I actually did pay money for, because of that ridiculous cover art and ridiculous title. The title is Stabbed in the Face. I think all of one person gets stabbed in the face in this movie. It's sort of gory, but that's really all it has going for it. Yeah, Stabbed in the Face is a pretty trash movie, if I'm being entirely honest here. Stag Night. I enjoy this sort of movie, just this sort of really, really bad movie, yet really funny sort of comedy horror. This one wasn't that great, though. I will say that. Stag Night isn't what I would consider fantastic by any means. Give me Legend of the Psychotic Forest Ranger over Stag Night any day of the week. The Stand. This movie is not a movie, actually. This is a miniseries, yeah. I consider it a movie, just because if I watch this, I will watch this all in one sitting like a movie. But, I've never seen The Stand all the way through. I have seen lots of The Stand. I'd say I've probably seen 3/4 of The Stand, but for whatever reason, I never finished it. Yeah. And I bought it a while ago just in case I ever wanted to finish it, because it was like $5 at Walmart. So this Stephen King collection, this is actually a pretty good little collection here. It has Apt Pupil, which is the only... Oh, no. Apt Pupil I have never seen. I have actually not seen 2 of these movies. And then it has Bag of Bones, which I haven't seen since junior high. And then it has Christine, which is pretty good. I don't think it's one of John Carpenter's best or anything. Secret Window, which is a decent movie. Sleepwalkers, which honestly is my favorite movie on this 6-pack. I love Sleepwalkers. It's completely ridiculous. But, again, I like bad movies. And then it has Stand By Me, which I've never seen. Because it's just not... I don't seek out Stephen King's non-horror stuff. So that's just not something that I've seeked out over my time of trying to watch, Stephen King adaptations. But... Storage 24, I've never seen this film. I got it at the dollar store, and I've actually heard some fairly good things about that movie. Again, I just woke up, so if you see hair sticking up in the back of my head, which I'm sure you'll be able to, that's why. Storm of the Century. This is a pretty good movie. Oddly enough, this movie is like 4 hours long. 256 minutes, so however long that is. I'm not going to sit here and do the math. But this movie is 256 minutes long. And I actually watch this movie about once a year. I don't think I watched it last year, but that would be like the first in 3 or 4 years that I didn't watch this movie. For how long that movie is, I actually do watch it a fair amount. Strangeland with Dee Snider. This is a cool movie. If you've never seen Strangeland, I do recommend it. It is a pretty cool piece of 90s horror here. The Strangers. I personally love The Strangers. I saw this movie for the first time when I was in junior high, and it scared the hell out of me. I mean, this movie is... It's some scary shit. So... The Strangers Prey at Night. It's good. It's not really scary, but it is, I just noticed one of my hairs, like, sticking up. It doesn't matter. Anyway, yeah, it's not really scary, though it does have that same kind of dark tone as the original Strangers. It's a pretty nihilistic film as well. Although it does have, like, some fun moments thrown in there, like the swimming pool scene is really cool. The Summoning, this is a dollar store film, haven't watched it. Not that I don't watch all of my dollar store films, it's just, it takes me a little longer to get to them. Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street, this is a pretty good movie too. I rather enjoy it anyway. And then I'm going to move the little stand in a little closer. There we go. Tater City. This is a movie that is... I think this movie's really fun. This is just mindless splatter. I think most of the effects in this movie are pretty CG'd. I know there's a lot of practicals in it too, so I shouldn't say most of them, but there's a lot of CG'd effects. This movie's very cheesy, and it's batshit insane. It takes a lot of inspiration from, like, anime and stuff like that, and makes it live action, which is kind of crazy. Like, this movie feels a bit like a live action anime, except it's not as good as most anime are. um, on a technical level, and that's not really a praise of anime. I'm not like a huge anime guy. It's just kind of a not a praise on this movie. I will say it's a fun movie, but if you have to take everything you watch super seriously and you can't handle a bad movie that's fun just because it's stupid and it has a lot of gore in it, then Tater City isn't for you at all, by any means. Tales from the Dark Side. So I had heard something about this movie where, wasn't this supposed to be like the third Tales from the Crypt, or not Tales from the Crypt, Creep Show? Wasn't this supposed to be like the third Creep Show movie or something, and then it got just turned into a different script altogether, or something like that? They basically took the Creeper out of the movie, and then they're like, yeah, let's make a Tales from the Dark Side movie instead. That's not a decision that I hate. I mean, this is a really, really cool movie. Really fun anthology stuff here. With some really cool effects, especially on the gargoyle one. I need to rewatch this movie. Really fun 90s stuff. What year did this come out in? 1990, on the nose. I was thinking it was 93, but... Anyway, Tales from the Dark Side, I highly recommend that movie. Tales of the Unexplained. I have no idea what this is. It says From Behind the Veil down on the bottom, which is kind of confusing because there was another Boris Karloff series called The Veil. I don't think it was ever actually released to TV or something like that, but I have like one of the DVDs of The Veil up there as well. And this says From Behind the Veil, so I don't... Is this The Veil? I don't think so. Looks like Tales of the Unexplained to me. But, anyway, I haven't seen any of these. I do need to get on that, but... Oh, God. Tank 432. This movie's pretty boring, if I'm being entirely honest. Not a lot happens. A lot of hallucinations happen. I do need to rewatch it, because I watched it with my buddy, and we were kind of BSing throughout the movie, but... yeah. I just remember a lot of hallucinations, and then an end sequence where a guy tries to run this guy over with a tank like 48 times in a row, and the guy keeps jumping out of the way. I don't have the most fond memories of that movie. 10. This is the Kickstarter backer DVD, which I only bought this particular DVD of 10 because it was like $1.42 on Amazon or something ridiculous like that, or it was eBay, or something ridiculous like that, where it was just super cheap. But anyway, 10 isn't a great film. You know, and I'm okay with like super independent type films, but 10's just not very good. It's a pretty ambitious movie, but overall I just don't think it landed. That being said, I don't think it's necessarily super bad either. But the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, everyone knows the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is the 1974 one. Fun fact, this was one of the very first rated R movies that my parents let me watch. Because I had convinced them that this movie was originally supposed to be rated PG, but due to the disturbing nature of it, it got an R rating. So I actually was able to convince my Mormon parents to let me watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is pretty sweet. Um, but yeah, I've had this DVD ever since I was about 14. So I'm never getting rid of this DVD. This is just another one of those things where it's like, it doesn't matter how many editions of it I have. I don't know that I'll get rid of the previous editions, just because I don't feel it necessary to get rid of the previous editions, because I can own as many editions of that movie as I want, and it still won't get ridiculous to me. The 2003 remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I also own this movie on VHS. But, of course, the DVD is what I usually watch. And, it's pretty good. It definitely isn't as good as the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it is pretty good. I will say that. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning, for a long while, I preferred this over the remake. I don't necessarily know if I do anymore, but it definitely does have its own unique little feel to it, which I really appreciate. And this is a nasty movie. This movie goes into some pretty nasty places. Like, a woman has a baby while she's working at some kind of slaughterhouse, and the baby just falls out of her, basically. Like, I think she falls over and she has the baby or something, because the boss won't let her take a break. And then she takes the baby and she throws it in the dumpster out back, and these people find the baby and they take it in. And of course, that baby turns out to be Leatherface. Like, that is really dark and nasty as hell. Definitely a kind of a shocking, nasty sort of movie. Texas Chainsaw 2013. Oh boy. Oh boy. The continuity in this movie is all screwed up. Like, it doesn't make any sense when you actually sit there and think about it. Because this woman is supposed to be like, if you take the continuity of this film at face value, the main character, the raven-haired chick in this movie, should be like 43 years old or some shit like that. Okay. Yeah, I don't think so. Let's put it that way. I don't think so. Them. The movie about giant ants. I like this movie. This is actually one of my more preferred, giant creature features. I've never... I think I've said on the channel before that I've never really been, the hugest fan of movies that are about giant creatures, like the Japanese kaijus and King Kong and stuff like that. And so, I mean, I've never been a fan of those. But Them, on the other hand, this is a movie that I actually like quite a bit. I can rewatch this movie once or twice yearly. So, The Thing from Another World. This isn't my favorite film. I had it at Barnes & Noble for like $5. Wow. This is neat. Anyway. I had never seen it before I bought it at Barnes & Noble. It's funny, this quote on the back, one of the great sci-fi classics, still a masterpiece. In what world is this movie a masterpiece? Genuinely, I don't think the horror genre had a masterpiece. No, never mind. A couple of the Universal monster movies, maybe. Never mind. Okay, let's say between the Universal Monster movies and 1960, I don't really think there was a masterpiece until Psycho. But I think maybe like Dracula and Frankenstein, the Wolfman, I think those might be pretty close. This movie, on the other hand, is nothing of the sort. It's a cheesy sci-fi horror movie that's just really quite silly, honestly. The Thing. This movie, on the other hand, is fantastic. I really don't think I have to say much else about The Thing. This movie is a masterpiece. This movie actually deserves that title. So, yeah, John Carpenter's The Thing. Amazing. The Thing 2011. I've never seen it. I keep putting it off, even though I'm pretty sure I'm going to like the movie. I don't know. Oh boy, The Tomb. Honestly, I actually have to get rid of this. I don't like this movie. This movie is terrible. They did their best to rip off Saw in this movie. Like, the character that talks to him, if I remember right, was doing this really cheesy, bad, like, Jigsaw impression. And then the editing in this movie was super reminiscent of Saw. It's so obvious that the editing was trying to emulate Saw's editing. And by the way, I don't know what I said earlier about the guy, the voice. I hope I didn't say anything. I didn't say like the director or anything, because that wouldn't have made sense. No, it's a guy in the movie, but he's doing like this super poor Jigsaw impression. And anyway, the storyline's a little similar to Saw, and I understand that The Tomb was an H.P. Lovecraft story, but I guarantee this has almost nothing to do with the H.P. Lovecraft story. I guarantee it. The place they're my God, can I please speak normally? The place they're shooting at literally looks like the director was renting this place for like $49.95 at the time. It's really bad. It's just this warehouse. It's not a tomb. It's a warehouse where people happen to be in wooden coffins. And if I remember right, the only reason why people die in this movie is because everyone makes stupid decisions. And it was written, produced, and directed by, I don't even know how to say this guy's name, Yui Lamel. I've heard terrible things about Yui Lamel, so that makes sense. I've heard that he is a pretty shit director. No offense to Yui Lamel. The Tommyknockers. I've never seen this, and I've had this movie for like 5 or 6 years. I do intend on watching it someday. It's just I haven't been in the mood to. The Toolbox Murders. It's funny, like the first probably quarter of this movie is like a slasher movie, and then the last 3/4 of the film is this exploitation sort of film. I like the first quarter of it. The last 3/4 aren't fantastic, if I remember correctly. It's another one of those that I need to rewatch again to get the whole story and just kind of get what this movie's all about. But by the way, saying a boot was a conscious decision. It's a joke between my friends and I didn't even think about it. I don't have an accent. Well, I might, just not a Canadian one. Not an accent that would cause me to say a boot. But, I found this movie, though, at a thrift store for like $2 or $3, which is really friggin' sweet. Because you never find these, like, Blue Undergrounds at thrift stores. I found a Synapse Blu-ray at that thrift store once before, too. It was the, Manos, The Hands of Fate Blu-ray, which, of course, I had to find the crappiest Synapse Blu-ray ever, but, still, I ended up buying that Blu-ray because Synapse Blu-ray, you know? You don't pass up a Synapse for $5. It's like you don't pass up finding something like this for, like, $2 or $3, so... Toxic Shark, I've never seen this. Again, bad shark movies always, you know, they tickle my fancy, they just never sound good. Tickle my fancy, that's such a strange way of saying that, I'm sorry. Train to Busan, this movie's a masterpiece. I found this at Walmart for like $3.74, which is ridiculous. Train to Busan is amazing. If you haven't seen Train to Busan, I highly recommend it. It is a South Korean movie, so you're either going to have to watch it dubbed or with subtitles. I recommend with subtitles, personally. The dub on it is pretty bad, but with subtitles, it is a masterpiece. Trailer Park Shark with Tara Reid. Yeah. Yep. That's a thing. I bought it because it sounds ridiculous. Trailer Park Shark? Yes, please. The Tremors collection. I like all 6 of these. I haven't seen the newest one, Shrieker Island, but I have seen all 6 of these films. All the older films. Of course, I say all the older films, but Tremors 6 just came out like 2-3 years ago. But anyway, I think all of these movies are thoroughly enjoyable. So, yeah, there's not one of these movies that I dislike. And I actually really like Jamie Kennedy in Tremors 5. I don't know why. I think I had heard that he got a little, like, hate for being in that movie. I might be wrong, but I don't know. I thought I had heard that, and I didn't think that made any sense, because I like Jamie Kennedy in that movie, but... Trick or Treat. This is the Ozzy Osbourne and Gene Simmons movie. I say Ozzy Osbourne and Gene Simmons because those are the only people whose names I remember from this movie, even though they're both in the movie for about a collective 3 minutes. So, yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. I will say, though, this movie is fantastic. Don't buy it for Ozzy Osbourne and Gene Simmons. You'll be highly disappointed. Though Ozzy Osbourne does have an extremely amusing cameo. He's like a preacher speaking out against rock music, which is... I find that hilarious. But, I mean, this whole movie is really cool, and the villain here is just an amazing villain. He really is one of the most entertaining villains on screen. This is just a really fun slice of 80s cheese, and I highly recommend it. And then Trick or Treat. Of course, this is an amazing movie. Who hasn't seen Trick or Treat? That is an awesome movie. And then, last and definitely probably least, this Maneater series triple feature. I really don't know anything about these. I haven't seen them. I haven't gotten around to them. Croc, Sea Beast, and Shark Swarm. I honestly actually don't think they'll be as bad as a lot of the shark movies I have, and like a lot of the, I guess, aquatic animal movies that I have, but I haven't gotten around to them. So, unfortunately, we end on one that I haven't seen, which I always hate doing, but doesn't matter. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, if you made it here till the end, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.